Hey you, how's it going? My name is Ruby Price, and the other week I was on the BBC Asian network talking about my transition and realised that I've never talked about my entire transition as a whole on this channel. So what I thought would be a good idea to make a helpful or educational or even just insightful video would be to basically TLDR my transition from start to finish. So sit down, strap in, because I'm about to take you through 8 years of my gender transition. I hope at this point you've realised I'm MTF. So let's start off back in 2009 and 2010. I'd spent a lot of time thinking and learning and trying to understand what gender meant to me, and I basically came to the conclusion that I was trans. You know, at this point I knew that I was not male. I'd spent 14, 15 years of my life, you know, not being 100% happy with the person who I was, not being 100% happy with the parts I had, and just in secret trying on women's clothes and feeling, why can't I wear these in public? So after doing copious amounts of online research, thinking I was going to have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars trying to transition, I came out to a very small circle of friends based on, you know, how close we'd been previously, and I tried to keep everything as hidden as possible because I couldn't deal with everyone in high school knowing. I was in year 9, I'd just spent many years being bullied previously in first and middle school. 3 to 5 years of that in high school, that was not something that I would have been happy with. So yeah, I came out to a very small group of friends. I probably came out to 1 or 2 more than necessary because lo and behold, it got leaked and all of a sudden I was the trans freak. So this was the make or break time. I either had to go with it, be the trans person who I'd said I was, or I could deny it and go back in the closet and live for a little bit as possibly just someone who's a little bit gay. I took the second option. As I mentioned, I'd been bullied at school for fucking years and I'd had enough, and I couldn't take it. I ran back into the trans closet with my penis tucked firmly between my legs, which is something I'll get onto. And essentially I just lived as a weird gay kid for, you know, most of high school. Let's push forward to 2012. I'm now in 6th form. Most of the idiots who made my life a misery in high school have moved on. I'm in a much stronger position mentally, and not only myself but a lot of the people around me have matured. So I'm feeling very much more comfortable, especially after having done a lot more research, that I am definitely transgender. And yeah, I came out to a similar group of friends. There was a couple of extras this time of people, you know, who I'd become closer to over the start of 6th form and the end of high school. But after years of denying it, now I was well and truly certain in the knowledge that I was transgender. And now that I was mentally prepared for what I would have to do once that news broke around the school, I was in a much better position. So 2013 is really where the ball starts to get rolling. In February, I booked an appointment with my GP so that I could discuss my options with transitioning and medically transitioning at the end of it all. In May, I was referred to CAMS, the Children and Adolescent Mental Health Service, where they assessed as to whether I should be referred to a gender identity clinic, and because I was going to be 18 by the time I should have had another appointment, they essentially fast-tracked me through the system after I displayed very much that I was, you know, of something of a sound mind and knew exactly what it was that I was supposed to be. On April 1st, I changed my name on Facebook to Ruby Price because I figured if there was a backlash, I could say it was an April Fool's, but at this point, I'd very much trimmed down my Facebook friends and followers so that really the only people who were yet to find out were already friends and would have probably guessed anyway at that point. In June, I publicly came out by officially changing my name to Ruby Rose Price via deed poll. This included work, bank, doctors, dentists, and all those other people that have to know your name. At this point as well, I was very much living full-time as Ruby Price, and it was this that very much helped when it came later on to being diagnosed with transsexuality. Yeah, that certainly helped. If I hadn't have been so active at this period, when it came to it later, I would have had to have waited to get said diagnosis. In the summer of 2013, after one CAMS appointment, I was referred to the Leeds Gender Identity Clinic, where I was placed on a waiting list, and this was the longest wait with nothing happening. Between being referred and actually having my first appointment is very much when a lot of the changes that I would have very much liked to have not happened to my body started happening. My hairline receded dramatically during this time, my voice dropped dramatically during this time, and my mental health as well just got really unbearable at this point, all because nothing was happening. I started looking for any excuse not to go into sixth form because my mental health couldn't take a day outside the house, and that eventually led to me pretty much failing my A2s, which honestly I don't know how I got into uni, but that's a matter for another time. So let's jump to 2014, and more specifically September 2014. This was when I had my first gender identity clinic appointment. I was referred in the summer of 2013. During this appointment, I was very much made aware of the care pathway and how long things were going to take to actually happen. I definitely think that having this knowledge early on meant that I knew exactly what I was getting in for. So, in January 2015, I was given the diagnosis of transsexuality. This meant that, I could proceed further down the gender care pathway, and that meant hormones, facial hair removal, voice training, if I wanted it. And speaking of hormones, May 2015, I started HRT. Oh man. That's 5 years ago now. The endocrinologist started me off on 50 mgs of Everol and a 3-monthly leuplorelin injection, which basically meant that I was taking an estrogen supplement and a testosterone suppressor. Perfect combination. And very quickly, my dosage of estrogen went up from 50 to 100, and that's currently what my dosage is today, although I no longer have to take the testosterone suppressors. In June 2015, I started facial hair removal. At the time, those on the NHS care pathway were only permitted 8 sessions to be paid for by the NHS, and then you were expected to continue funding it yourself afterwards. I haven't really been in a financial position since finishing the NHS hair removal to continue with facial hair removal, and it's something that I very much want to resume as soon as I can afford it, but that's not yet. Let's skip forward about a year to May 2016. It was at this point that I was given a second opinion for surgery from a gender specialist, who I essentially had to convince that I knew the ins and outs of gender reassignment surgery. I had to know the procedure, I had to know the risks involved, and I very much had to stake my case as to why I should be having that procedure. And by doing that, I was referred for gender reassignment surgery. And in June 2016, as I mentioned, I had my final NHS provided facial hair removal session, and I'm yet to continue that because of financial implications. In October, I started having hair removal sessions to prepare me for having gender reassignment surgery. This was essentially a weekly session based somewhere between Wakefield and Leeds at a clinic called Face the Future, where I basically had a needle shoved into pubic hair for about 15 minutes to half an hour. It's not fun. It's not fun. No. But you've got to do it because the last thing anybody wants is having hair growing out their vagina. No. In March 2017, I finished those hair removal sessions and was given the go-ahead for gender reassignment surgery. And then 2 months later, in May, it was revealed that my surgery would be on the 27th of July, 2017. So then, on the 27th of July, 2017, I had my gender reassignment surgery. I've made plenty of videos about that. Do go watch them, please. So then moving to 2018, I started having voice training sessions with a speech and language therapist. There's also a series on my channel about this. It's called The Voice Diaries. Do go check it out. In May, I was discharged by my surgeon, meaning I would no longer have to travel to Spire Methley Park Hospital to keep getting my vagina checked by my surgeon. And then in July 2018, I was discharged by the Gender Identity Clinic and I considered my transition over. Now, obviously there are still quite a few things that I would very much like to do that revolve around my gender transition. There are several surgeries I'd quite like to look into if I have the money for it. There's still obviously the matter of facial hair removal, and I would quite like to get some electrolysis done elsewhere. But other than that, I very much consider my transition to be over now. And the most important thing is that I am so much happier compared to the person who started that transition all the way back in 2009 and 10. And I think that's the thing that most people need to take away from this, is that yes, it can be a very long wait of not much happening, and then sometimes there are periods where it feels like there is something happening every month. But at the end of it, I'm a very happy woman, and I think that's fantastic. So that was my gender transition TLDR. I hope you got a lot out of it. If you did, please give it a share with someone who you think might possibly enjoy this video. If you would like to help me out financially, I do have a Patreon and a Ko-fi account. Links are both in the description. And obviously as well, if you enjoyed it, leave a thumbs up. Provided you're not a TERF, leave a comment. And finally, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to the channel. As always, I've been Ruby Price, and I shall see you next time. Adios. Bye.